Okay, we are live. Live and global. We'll just give it a second for folks to come in. All right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to St. Andrews. My name is Matt Wolinski. I'm the Director of Admission here at St. Andrews. And it is a beautiful, little chilly Sunday morning here in Middletown, Delaware. We've got a great panel of international students and international advisors here for you this morning. And our hope is first and foremost to congratulate you on your acceptance, to welcome you to St. Andrews, to help you continue to get to know St. Andrews as you're thinking about what choice you'll make for next year. We really hope it's here. And then, of course, we want to put our little spin on it of international student experience at St. Andrews. I am unique probably on this panel in that my international experience was before my career at St. Andrews fairly limited. I grew up less than 2 kilometers from here. And I came to St. Andrews as a student, and my world got a whole lot bigger because you come to a place like this where about 50, a little under 20% of our student body is from overseas or has lived overseas. And folks are from all over the world, many different cultural backgrounds. And that brings and adds to the distinctiveness of the school. And that's part of what we looked for in admissions in your files, accepted students, is what's your experience? What perspective will you bring? And how will you benefit from being here in this community? So we're going to look at those things today, look at a little bit about student life, academic life, faculty support for international students and families. And then, of course, at the end, we want to answer your questions. So I think just at the beginning, what we'll do is we'll go sort of around the screen and introduce ourselves. Again, I am Matt Wolinski from St. Andrews. I'm the Director of Admission. And just real quick, one of my favorite SAS memories, and it does have to do with an international student, is one of my dorm mates and very close friends when I showed up freshman year was a young man from Lebanon. And as I said, I grew up on a farm near here, and going to visit him was actually my first ever international trip. And so that's one of my favorite SAS memories way back when I was a student. But let's go around the horn. Yo-Yo, you want to go next?
Yep, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Yo-Yo. I'm from Shanghai, China, and I came to St. Andrews as a new sophomore. Prior to St. Andrews, I went to another junior boarding school from 7th to 9th grade. And right now I'm a senior. I'm currently the co-head of International House, the co-head of Asian Affinity Group, also known as Asian Student Union. And I'm also one of the mission interns. And one of my favorite SAS memory is at the beginning of senior year, all the seniors had to come back a little bit earlier than other people to invite all the new students. And I formed a great relationship with my little sister.
Thanks, Yo-Yo. Mike, you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Mike. I'm a senior. I'm also co-head of International House. I'm also an admissions intern. I'm from Beijing, China. I play basketball, and I'm also an art major. I guess we can talk about it a little bit more when you and I talk about the student life here. My favorite St. Andrews memory is, I guess, all the way back in freshman year, the first day I came to St. Andrews, when I came to the International House orientation, it would somehow happen to be the exact day of my birthday. And my mom secretly told Mr. Wolinski that was my birthday. So they threw this entire secret party after an orientation for me, and I was so overwhelmed. It was a great memory.
Was a great moment. Great. Thanks, Mike. Next up, April and Haley.
I'm April, and I'm from Daegu, South Korea. I'm also a senior, and I'm also part of the co-head of the International House and the Asian Student Union. I'm also an art major. I think one of my favorite St. Andrews memories is actually last year when the seniors graduated and the juniors were like the oldest people on campus. And so we were allowed to actually like go watch the sunrise at like 5:30 in the morning. So we went all the way down to the pond and just like sat there with a bunch of friends.
Great memory.
My name is Haley. I'm from Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, and I'm also a senior. I would say my favorite memory here is being on dorm with other seniors like April. We had a lot of fun and just like hanging around.
Yeah, I could tell that last night. I did duty actually on Haley and April's dorm, and just the energy after the dance last night was a lot of fun. So we get to know each other well. We have a lot of fun. Mrs. Chu.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jiaqi Chu. I'm actually from Taiwan. This is my 16 years at St. Andrews. I have two sons graduated from St. Andrews in 2014 and 2018. So basically, my amazing colleague helped me raise my boys. And I totally understand why they say it takes a village to raise a child. And we are here for your kids too. My favorite memories before pandemic, all the international students will come to my house to make dumplings and eat hot pots for Chinese New Year's.
Always good food at St. Andrews, that's for sure. And we have, Mike was a little humble, but he is quite the chef. So maybe we can hear about that a little later on. And last but not least, Dr. Hyde.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Ashley Hyde. I grew up in England. You can probably guess that. I have been at St. Andrews now. This is my fifth year. And I think that my favorite memory of St. Andrews is, I actually really cannot pick just one, but I think every single week we have school meeting. And I think every school meeting is like my favorite school meeting, because it is just a time for us to come together as a community and to appreciate one another, celebrate one another, get excited about what everyone else is doing, and kind of go through the whole range of emotions. We laugh, we cry, we just have a great time together. And we come out of that meeting every single week, and everyone's just like so full of energy, so excited to be here. So just every week, every single week, I love it.
Thank you. So you've gotten to know us a little bit, a sampling of the great community here at St. Andrews. We just want to share a little bit about different areas of the school, to make sure you've had a chance to get to learn that and hear a student and faculty perspective. So maybe we could just start with student life. Mike and Yo-Yo, if you want to just talk about different areas of student life, your experiences and the things that resonate most with you.
Yeah, of course. So I can just touch upon the basic schedules, I guess, daily. So basically we have 4 blocks each day, and then we have 7 blocks in total. So we basically rotate, which means the classes that you take today might not happen tomorrow. So it gives you extra time to do work or communicate with your faculties, or just come up with some questions with other classmates. And then each block is 75 minutes. Between each block, we have either a 15-minute break or like a 30-minute longer break. And then after 2 blocks, we have lunch. Most of the times it is family style, which means you sit with 2 classmates from each class or each form, and also 2 faculty members. And then that rotates about 2 weeks as well. And after lunch, you have another 2 blocks, and then it's your sports time. So besides academic, sports is also a pretty big part at St. Andrews. I'd say personally, I was on cross country team, also the captain for cross country team this year. And in winter, I used to do winter crew workout with my advisor, Mrs. Burrow. But this year I tried something new actually, which is squash. And I'd say being a senior at St. Andrews, it's your time to try anything. For me, squash was pretty hard at first, but still I went to the team, tried it with my new coaches, and it was great. So I would say pick your own sport. If you don't have one, just jump in. There's a bunch of other students who are at St. Andrews who never tried certain sports as well. So it's just your opportunity to shine. And maybe, who knows, you're very good at it. So after sports time, usually we have, it's like afternoon activities. If you want to do winter play, you can, join the play. We always have a fabulous winter play at the end of the winter season. I'd say this past one was just fabulous. Due to COVID, we lost a bunch of students, but still, I think Mrs. Taylor did a wonderful job putting them together. So right now it's spring season, and as we all know, Delaware is, relatively warmer than maybe Connecticut. So I'd say during springtime, there's more students often on the front lawn, which if you ever toured St. Andrews, it's this beautiful place in front of the pond. And you will often see a lot of students there just playing frisbee, spike balls. And after that, we usually have our study hall. Depends on your form, which is your class. The time is usually different. But then I'd say most students get most of their work done during study hall or one of their free blocks. So I think, we still have a bunch of extra time to hang out with classmates or talk to our parents, call home.
Yeah. Thanks, Yo-Yo. And thanks for working in that. Because of our geographic location, we get about 6 weeks more spring and fall than some of the New England schools. So remember that if you're a fan of good seasons. So
yeah,
Mike, how about you want to talk about the weekends and clubs and things like that?
Yeah. I was thinking about talking about like what a busiest day would look like for me at St. Andrews. I mean, normally it would be a weekday because I do somehow have, I'd say, like one of the busiest schedules in our grade. I take humanities, which is this like super hard like history and literature class that seniors can choose to take. It's like a double credit class. It meets twice. So it actually appears twice on your schedule, and you meet. I mean, you only meet once a day, but you meet every single day. It's a great class to explore like all your passions for history, like doing researches and exploring like novels on a deeper level. I personally feel like the class would like prepare students really well for college because apparently some of the work that we did are already more difficult than first year college courses. I also happen to be an art major, which is also a great class, and I sometimes see my art block as a free period because it's a good like way of transitioning myself from all the busy academics to like an hour and 15 minutes of time where I can just focus on my artwork and explore my passions. I was really into oil painting, and I did that for 2 years here at St. Andrews prior to being an art major. But being an art major gave me the opportunity to like explore all the medium that I wanted to do. And currently I'm working on this really cool like film project of like using a laser to record objects onto like a tiny glass plate. And I asked Mr. Meyer, who's the director of the art center here, for the permission to the dark room, which is a room that's been in the art center for like all 4 years while I'm here, but I was just never aware of its existence before, I guess. I was just shocked about that huge like room with all the advanced equipment because I was just never aware that was there. Yeah, and outside of the academics, there's always, again, just like Yo talked about, the sports and the activities they can do after classes. I played varsity basketball in the winter. We have a great basketball program here. We actually made a run to the finals before the pandemic, and we almost went into the quarterfinals this year in the playoffs. And we have a lot of rising young talent, so the team is only going to get better in the next couple of years. And our coach, Mr. Myers, who's this amazing coach who just got into the St. Joseph University's Hall of Fame. We also have a really great like just basketball facility. Fun fact, they filmed like a Nike commercial here like a couple of years ago. So if you like to play basketball, St. Andrews is definitely your choice. Now we encourage you to like definitely try out for the team, because freshman year I started off not so good at basketball, and I started off playing on the thirds team, and it took me 3.5 years of grind to get to varsity on my senior year. So anything is possible if you want to try to do it. Outside of sports, there's just a ton of activities that you can do here at St. Andrews. There's all the clubs, the affinity groups that will gather up and have functions that have good food, as always. And me personally, I'm a part of Knoxing Tones, which is an a cappella group at our school. We meet twice a week to rehearse, and we just pick literally all kinds of songs. Like people will sing pop songs or songs from like movies. Like a friend of mine, Alaire, just did Freedom 90 from The Perfect Pitch. I chose like a super old 80s, I mean, actually like 1940s or 50s song. And somehow it was old enough for me to perform in front of the grandparents yesterday. And as a senior in Knoxing Tones, you get the chance to choose your own song and perform a solo. I just did that at one of the school meetings before spring break, and it was a great experience. And it doesn't really take any like prior experience for you to try to join an a cappella group. I personally didn't even read music at the time. So if you have like any interest in anything at St. Andrews, I feel like the main thing is just like be brave enough to try it out.
Thank you, Mike. It's been great from a faculty perspective, just watching the careers, because I remember tiny little Mike, as he said, on his first day, his birthday, and to tell him that, 3.5 years later, he'd be a varsity singer, a varsity basketball player, all these things, right? And everybody has those stories. So thank you for sharing, Mike. Mike talked a little bit about the rigor of the program. That's a good transition to Dr. Hyde, who, as chair of sciences and a key member of the academic leadership here at St. Andrews, we'll talk just a little bit about that challenge, that opportunity, that preparation for college.
Absolutely. Thank you. So the sort of principle or mission behind the academic program at St. Andrews is very much to help our students to begin, even from just the high school level, doing the work of real scientists, real historians, real musicians, real artists, really allow them to sort of dig in and start doing sort of deep involved work at the high school level. One thing that's sort of special about St. Andrews is that we don't follow standardized testing. So we're not an AP school, and that means we don't have to worry about using our academic time to sort of prepare students to pass tests. I've taught at a school like that previously. So before coming to St. Andrews, I taught at Harrow School in the United Kingdom. And if anybody on the call knows anything about the British education system, I assume a lot of people have probably heard about GCSEs and A-levels, and sort of the British education system is designed to sort of prepare students for that. So that's how I grew up. That's how I taught previously. And what sort of drew me to St. Andrews was the sort of prospect of not having to sort of put education into just that box of having students learn facts and write them on a test, which didn't feel like it was really doing justice to what students are actually capable of at this age, and sort of the varying interests and levels of curiosity that they have. And so I'm at St. Andrews because I think that we have the most exciting approach to academics that I've seen at in a high school level. And so in combination with that, we bring in people who are really experts in their field, really passionate about what they do. As an example, we have people who are in the science department. Again, I'm science chair, so this is just sort of an anecdote from my department. We have people who've come from background in research. We have a former nuclear engineer. We have someone who until last year was on the Juneau Glacier taking ice cores and analyzing them. And now they're here in the St. Andrews classroom teaching our students how to be real scientists. What are the kind of thought processes that you go through if you are a scientist? So it's things like experiment design, problem solving, collaborative skills, just sort of long chains of reasoning, looking at sort of analyzing the quality of evidence and how is it that we can and should come to conclusions. All of these really important skills that you need, not only going forward as a scientist, but actually they're sort of transferable skills to many different areas of life. It's the same thing in history, where, right from day one, it's never about just memorizing names and dates. It's always about really digging into sources, thinking about the quality of sources, thinking about what we can extract from sources, very much sort of trying to sort of piece together a real world puzzle about what really happened during this historical event, what influenced people's decisions. And in many ways, I think it allows students to see the connections between lots of different areas of academics, which I also think is really important. So that's a little bit of our philosophy around academics. And that's a sort of a quite rigorous approach. We're asking quite a lot of students. So there are many support systems in place for students. Teachers, of course, we all live here. So the wonderful thing is that we're always available for extra help. So often, it's possible for students not just to meet during the academic day with their teachers, but, if their teacher happens to be on dorm duty one night, they can head along there and get some help during study hall, perhaps on the weekends, things like that. So we're always here. We're always happy to help. In addition to that, we have a pretty robust senior student support group or program. So many of the different disciplines here have senior students who help sort of just provide peer support to the younger students. So they'll sort of advertise their availability once or twice a week, whether it's for science or whether it's for languages, whatever it might be, whether it's for math, etc. And any underperformers can come along and sort of get that peer-to-peer help, just because we always understand that some students prefer to go to a friend or a peer than a teacher, which is fine. In addition to that, in terms of the faculty, students have advisors. I think we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but one of the sort of things that an advisor will do is to sort of keep in touch with each student about their academics and sort of any issues that come up, any problems that the students are having, whether that's sort of trying to figure out how to sort of overcome that sort of hurdle that they're having in a class or whatever it might be, setting goals, etc. And academic advising is the sort of final big piece that's sort of worth knowing about. I used to be an academic advisor, and the role of an academic advisor, there's 2 per form. And it's really that sort of overview of the students in that form, looking at sort of things like special comments, academic comments coming through, all of the sort of internal processes that we use to sort of help make sure students are on track and supported and have what they need. So there's many different faculty members other than the teacher that sort of are helping keep an eye on things, offering support, helping provide structure if needed, and really just sort of gives students a few different people that they can approach for help if they feel that they need it, whether that's faculty or students. So that's just a little summary of academics here at St. Andrews.
Thank you, Ashley. Yeah, and just, again, to reiterate, we're just over 300 students, about 80 faculty, and we're 100% residential. So we know each other. We're there for each other. We're supporting each other in all things. And that's where I think it really allows every individual student to maximize their opportunity, their accomplishment in the classroom, because you have that small meeting in the dining hall that leads to a refined experiment, that leads to a summer project, that leads to a college area of interest. So thank you. So, recognizing that's a general statement for all students at St. Andrews, we're very conscious that everybody comes to St. Andrews with a different set of experiences, a different set of needs. And so we hope over the last 10 years, especially with Mrs. Chu's help, have really built International House into an affinity group and an organization that helps the whole community get to know different students in different countries from around the world, but also helps individual students from around the world get to know St. Andrews and succeed here. So as 2 leaders of International House, April and Haley, could you talk a little bit about International House, what we do, who we are, and how we make life here at St. Andrews better?
Yeah, I mean, definitely it's a really close affinity group and a support system here on campus. And it's honestly a great way to meet all the other people who come from all different places. I've never met someone from Vietnam before, and then here we are. And we have great orientations, which Haley could talk about in a little bit. I mean, I've definitely gotten a lot of help from International House on the faculty here, especially when COVID first hit, and I couldn't go home. International House would organize certain events or help us connect to different faculty, so we could get great food and meet some of the other faculty that we wouldn't normally meet. I met my Spanish teacher, Mr. Duffy's wife, for the first time over a lunch break or something. And even like last year, I got some help with like quarantine regulations when it was still a thing in the States. And so I got to connect with the Firminiches, who were like seniors last year. And I got to hang out with his family for like a week. And it was like honestly totally great. If you want to talk a little about orientation.
Yeah. I remember in the beginning of this year, we had a great international orientation. And Mike, Yo-Yo, and April were there, and we were just like having a lot of fun. We were helping out like new freshmen, new international students, and yeah. And I just want to say that like the support that we have for you guys at the school is just like everywhere, and you know that like you can always go to Mr. Wolinski or Dr. Hyde and Mrs. Chu, just like to have a conversation, you know, or just like if you want to ask questions, they will always be willing to listen to you. And even though the 4 of the seniors won't be here next year, but you know, you guys will have very phenomenal international leaders next year to go to. And yeah, some of my favorite memories in International House is when Mike cook us like fried rice or something, which he really has to do it again because I kind of want some food. And yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you, girls. Yeah, and I think you know, just to that point, like I love we even have some swag in International House. Yes, thank you, April. You know, we have these moments where we come together and there's both, you know, sort of big picture moral support, just being there for each other. And then there's some really practical support, like navigating visa issues, which, you know, I know, April, we've been trying to figure out whatever goes on with your I-20 for the last 4 years. And we're, you know, like we're there to support each other in those moments, both practical and big picture. So maybe to talk a little bit more about that, both, you know, on the softer side of support, Mrs. Chu has been mom to a lot of us for a lot of years at St. Andrews, both her own kids and all of the international students at St. Andrews. So Jachi, could you talk a little bit about advising, about support, and maybe especially for the parents on the call about how we connect with you if you're overseas from your child?
Definitely, like Mike and everybody just say, we all live here, so we know each other so well. It's really a family. It's our home away from home. And we are here to welcome you and to make sure that you feel comfortable to have a successful life in our community. So advisor basically is the point of contact person for the parents. And each advisor might have 3 to 8 advices. It depends on the kid's choice. The school will assign an advisor for the first year students. And after the first year, if they choose to stay with the same advisor, they can, or they can switch to another one. And the purpose of an advisor is really to assist our students in their growth, both academically, personally, and socially. And it takes time to build trusting relationship, right? So it's a continuously but consistent process. And it has to build upon the frequent accumulated personal contact between advisor and advisees. So usually advisor will provide sensitive and soulful support to our students and to be there like their mom or their dad. So as you can see, the advisor's role is very active though, it's not a passive one. Academically, advisor will help students to schedule their classes for every semester. So each student will have an up-to-date academic schedule planned throughout to graduation. And also, just like Ashley talked about the special comments, you will send to advisor as well. So advisor will monitor the process during a student's growth in academic. So every time when there's grades and comments are out, the advisor will meet with advisee one-on-one to review their progress and to discuss grades or other performance. And socially, of course, like as we live together, there might be friendship, roommates issues, and advisor usually is the one person who will listen to you. And when you are so stressed, your advisor might be able to take you to Starbucks to have a conversation over coffee, or they might, when you're homesick, they might be able to take you off campus to go to a good restaurant, and so you can eat something you like. Socially, we are all here for each other, though. Besides your advisor, the whole advisory group is another support system as well. So you get to hang out with other kids and listen to their experience, or you guys get to complain about something or to celebrate something together. It's all how we build this relationship. And everyone here is trying to build a safety net to catch you before you fall. So if anything happens, go to an advisor, they will be there for you. And as for parents, the advisor will send out an advisor letter to parents about 3 times per year to give parents like a summary report on the students' progress, not just academic. It's also about their dorm life, their sports performance, or any activity they join, like music, art. So when parents have any questions, the first person I would suggest you go to will be the advisor. Of course, you can also email all of us that you see here, and we also have another 2 academic international advisor that you can reach out. So you can write to us in Chinese, in Korean, in any other language you want. We'll find a way to get back to you.
Great, thank you. And just to wrap up the sort of formal part of the presentation, we just want you to know that no matter where you're coming from around the world, right down the road like me, or all the way across an ocean and a continent, like many of the folks on this call, you know, once you get here, you're part of the family, and we're here to help you become your best self over the course of 2 or 3 or 4 years. And so I hope you get a sense, not just from this call, but from all of the virtual experiences during this visit back season, that you're part of the family as accepted students, right? We're really excited about each of your stories. We talk about you with the current students in terms of who you might be on this campus next year: a great swimmer, or a great basketball player, or a great scientist, or a great dorm leader. And we're excited to help you realize your best potential over the next 4 years. So as I said, broad diversity of experiences, both within our school and in terms of accepted students. So some of you accepted students on the call, I see Switzerland, I see South Africa, I see Singapore, Ghana, Bermuda, Sri Lanka. So all of these experiences are going to come onto this campus and just make for the richest experience possible. And I think the biggest way that that's been demonstrated this year is we actually have a student from Ukraine. And given what has been going on in the world, and given the shockwave of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, to hear from Zhenya, to hear her experience, to hear her family's courage, and to share that with the community is just a small example of what you can do when you come from around the world to a boarding school community like this. So we hope that for all of you who are on this call, and we're excited for you to join St. Andrews next year. We did set aside a little bit of time for questions. So if you've thought of something as we were talking, feel free to drop it into the Q&A or the chat. We're happy to answer any questions you have about the school, about the enrollment process, about next year. So please feel free. Drop it into the Q&A or the chat. One big one while you're thinking and waiting, I'll just say up front, in terms of travel and COVID, we've all been through it, right? Everybody give yourselves a hand for navigating that over the last 2 years. As Haley referenced, some of it was quarantining with local families before you could come. And then there was this massive effort to get everyone vaccinated at St. Andrews. We do testing every week. And we are finally, because of very low case counts in Delaware, in green status here at St. Andrews, which means that April and Haley can sit next to each other without a mask, which is brilliant. So we have had remarkable success, and just know that we're going to help you navigate travel. We're going to help you navigate all of those requirements. All right, let's see. Great question from Mateo. Do international students arrive earlier at the start of the school year? Mike, you wanna talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, about my favorite St. Andrews core memory. So you would normally arrive, I'd say, about like 4 or 5 days ahead of the actual start of the school for the international students orientation. And basically throughout the orientation, there's just a bunch of activities that we would set up to help you like know about the school and all the faculty members. We'll just like take you around for tours and scavenger hunts, and some like ice-breaking activities for you to know all the international students that's here already. And then there's like trips to town, so you can grab like all the supplies that you need at Walmart. Something that's even more exciting is that the seniors would actually be back earlier than the international students. So you would think that you're the first group of students that's here, but then your SAS big siblings are already here to take care of you. So you're gonna have like a super busy like 2.5 days of orientation. And at that point, at least at that point for me, I was 100% ready for my freshman year. And I guess the actual schedule for the orientation has not came out yet, but you would always come back just a little bit earlier than the other students.
Starts on September 2nd this year, actually. So September 2nd, circle it on your calendars, Mateo and others. And just know that also in that orientation, part of actually the original purpose of it, before it was such a fun thing, was just to give you time to sleep, because we know that jet lag is real. And so there's a little bit of time built in for you to get on Eastern time as well over those first few days. Thank you. Great question. Oh, great. Oh, so this, and maybe Ashley, this is one that we can all answer together, but you can lead on. So Magnus asks, thanks for all the great information. How do you decide which courses to put students in, given all the different backgrounds? So Ashley, do you want to lead off with that? Maybe we can talk about that from a student perspective as well after.
Yes, absolutely. It's such a great question. So as a general rule, this is done on a case-by-case basis. So there's no one rule fits all. For incoming third formers, there's sort of a standard selection of courses for the most part. But to give you an example of math, where students, particularly international students, do tend to come in at a variety of levels, there'll always be a placement test. And so based on just how you do on the placement test, that will help inform the math department about sort of where are your sort of strengths, what have you already sort of mastered, and where are your sort of rooms, where is your room for growth? And so the sort of math department will look carefully at that sort of test score, at your transcript, and we'll try and you know, often in conversation with the student, we'll figure out what's the right placement. And it's always possible to make adjustments actually after the student arrives, and maybe after the first week of class, the student and the teacher might be like, hang on a minute, this isn't right. And then we can move things around. It's pretty much the same story for any other discipline. So if there is a class that, you know, perhaps the student feels that I've already taken something really similar to this, then that's something that we would encourage you to flag sort of early on in the process. The sort of scheduling happens over the summer for student schedules. And so we have a wonderful team. Our Dean of Studies, Melinda Tower, and our Registrar, Cynthia Porch, are the ones who build the schedule over the summer. And they will typically be in touch, in particular with international students or new students that have sort of transcripts where something sort of other than the standard courses for that year might be warranted. And so there'll be a conversation that will occur. You know, you can absolutely reach out to those people, to Melinda Towers, Dean of Studies, and sort of ask sort of questions about your placement in you know, whatever subject that you have questions about. And then typically Mrs. Tower, Melinda Tower, will be in touch with the department chair of or chairs of the subjects that you have questions about. We'll look over your transcript. We'll ask you questions about sort of what have you covered, what have you not covered. And again, on that case-by-case basis, in conversation with you, looking at all your background, we will try and place you in what we think is going to be the most appropriate course. But again, once the year begins, there's always the we try and get it right the first time, but it's always possible to make changes once the year begins if it's clear that something isn't quite right. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. And just to emphasize that, particularly for those of you on the call who are thinking about 10th or 11th grade entry, we pay even more attention to those things, right? Coming into 9th grade is somewhat standard, somewhat easy. You just take the placement test and, you know, wherever you go can be adjusted later. The assistant, we always have an exchange student from Germany, and they always place into a certain math class because the German curriculum lines up, and then they come and we realize they actually know a lot more math. They just didn't know the English words for certain concepts. So then it's very easy to bump them up into that more appropriate class.
Matt, could I also just very quickly, I just want to say hello. I saw that it was Magnus who asked that question. Magnus, I remember emailing with you a while back, so just wanted to say hi. Thanks for the question.
Yeah. And maybe Yo-Yo, real quick, you know, I know you came in as a 10th grader, right? And then April, you came in as a 10th grader too, right? Could the two of you maybe talk a little bit about just that placement process, and if you feel, you know, how you feel like you found the right fit classes for your process?
Yeah, I think for English class, it's pretty standard. We have English 1 to 4, and it's basically, you know, if you're a freshman, you go to 1, if you're a senior, you go to 4. But for math and science, I think that's one of the tricky part, because I remember when I first came, St. Andrews placed me in one of the math classes, and I realized maybe, you know, I can challenge myself a little more and try something even harder. So I emailed with Dr. J, and Dr. J sent me over summer, and he sent me, you know, a bunch of exercises that, you know, St. Andrews actually uses for the class that I was placed in. And then I finished all those exercises, and I, you know, emailed him, and we set up a test after I arrived. And I think after that test, we communicated. So he basically told me, you know, if you want to challenge yourself, it might take you, you know, longer time to do your work or longer time to understand certain concepts. But, you know, I do believe in you that you can be successful in that class. So that's how I changed my course to a more challenging one. And after that, you know, I just kept along the course lines. And right now I'm in, you know, a differential class with Mr. Olana, which I think do fit my ability in math. And same goes with science. You know, you can actually choose if you're more interested in bio or chem or physics when you're a senior, but oftentimes, you know, there's always 1 or 2 students in their junior years thinking, okay, I can take 3 science classes. It doesn't, you know, doesn't challenge me at all. But at the end of the day, it all depends on your skills and how much you want to challenge yourself, because there's always room for challenge and there's always time for you to do extra work. It just depends on, you know, what do you want during your St. Andrews career.
Yeah, I mean, I have a really interesting case where for science, I was like, because I was coming in as a sophomore, so I could have taken the physics course, but then I felt like, I don't know, I was like better fit for the bio class during that time, and so I actually chose to take the bio class and then move on from there. So like, normally sophomores would take physics, but I take bio, and then junior year normally you would take chemistry, but I took physics, and now I'm taking chemistry. And so you could always like adjust that too when you're coming in. And in terms of like languages, you also have a placement test. And so I took mine and got placed into Spanish 3. But originally I was placed, I think, into Spanish 4, but I felt like that was a little too hard for me. So I chose to stick with Spanish 3. I guess in terms of like arts courses, you kind of start at level 1. And so I took drawing 1 sophomore year and then painting 1 last year. And then I moved on to art major. But some people, if their schedules don't actually work out, you could just enter in a painting like 2 class, but during that class you would take like a painting 1 course.
Yeah.
And so you could always like adjust these things.
That's a great example. Thank you, April. Because I love that. That's the flexibility that we have the incredible privilege to do because of our size. You know, think about at the college level, like, oh, just because of your needs, we're going to reorient the whole schedule. That just wouldn't happen at a larger school. But here, Mrs. Porch and Mrs. Hurt work together, department chairs work together with students to make sure you have that experience. So thank you for bringing that up. Great. Any other questions, folks on the call? Last thoughts?
Mike, I want to add a little bit something. Since I'm the Chinese teacher, I want to speak a little bit about language department. We'll send out the placement test around May. So you will receive it, and then you might have your parents or your teacher to monitor your test. And then the teachers might give you a call and give you an oral interview. When you come to school, if you are not happy with your placement, we usually give you 3 weeks trying period, and then you can talk to the teacher, talk to your advisor, and then you can switch to another level of the class.
Absolutely. Great. Well, thank you, everyone. Around the world, I know a lot of you are getting ready for dinner or getting ready for bed in the start of a new week. So we're just getting ready for what we hope will be a great Sunday. We have our first mall trip in over 2 years. So we're going up to tax-free shopping with 3 busloads of students, and other students are going to a local art museum. And it feels that we're blessed that life is slowly returning to normal in a safe and thoughtful way. But so folks on St. Andrews, teachers, students, looking forward to seeing you the rest of the day. For those joining us from around the world, we wish you a great evening, a wonderful school week. And of course, we're here to answer any questions as you're making your final decisions about next year. So thank you again. Have a wonderful day.
Can I show them
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.